Hi, welcome to Simple Shifts Conversations to Fuel Your Body, Mind, and Soul. I'm Martha McKinnon from the blog Simple Nourished Living, and this is my brother and partner Peter.
Hi,
Hi, how's it going?
it's going pretty good. How's everything going with you?
Everything's going really, really well. As people may who are paying attention may notice that we've changed our tagline because I couldn't. It just it was time for a change. So
Change is good.
yeah, so isn't that so? That's kind of exciting for me because it just rolls out. We're going to explore all the ways that we can fuel our body, mind, and soul, since I believe that we're psychosocial beings. We're not just a body, we're not just a mind.
Well, that
We've
doesn't
got to
sound like
think
it rolls
about
right off your tongue.
it doesn't roll off my tongue.
Biosocos,
Biopsychosocial.
biopsychosocial. I guess once you're used to it, but
We're a biopsychosocial being. What does that mean to you?
biopsychosocial. Well, bio is your body, your biology. Psycho is your head, your mind, and social is your interaction with the community. So it's
Yeah, and all of those would I believe that all of those influence our overall well-being.
equally or like
Uh,
33%
oh,
each, or
oh, now you're getting way too technical.
I would say
I don't
psychos
know.
way more and biology are
Oh,
way more.
so you would say the mind is way more powerful than those other two aspects. Yeah, I would agree with that. Especially coming off, I just came off of an amazing weekend workshop with Dr. Joe Dispenza. Do you know that name?
Not deeply, no. I've heard it, but I don't
No.
know
Well,
much.
he's a researcher. He's been around for 40 years. He's a researcher in the whole mind body space. He's done a lot of research around his real interest is around spontaneous healing. And so he's done a lot of research on mind body, and he would agree with you that the mind is really much more powerful than we realize, and probably a bigger contributor if you think of biopsychosocial.
Because with the
So I
social, you
think you're
could choose to, interact, or you could withdraw and be really solitary or alone. So you have much more control over the social aspect, I think. But
yeah. Well, but there's a lot being talked about in terms of loneliness and its negative effects on our overall health and well-being. So that our connections, our environment, our social support can really impact our overall well-being.
that's for sure.
So yeah, for sure. So today we're going to talk about girl dinner. Have you heard of girl dinner?
I have not.
You have not. I hadn't heard of it easier either, and it makes me feel sometimes like I just live in an alternate bubble because the term came up in a live stream that I was watching, and it automatically just caught my attention, and I had to go out and research it. And it's a phenomenon that's been around under those words, girl dinner, for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And
Okay.
it took fire in the world of TikTok, where a woman shared her plate of food, which was essentially just a sort of the snack items she was planning to eat for dinner, and it just took on a life of its own. And it's got a huge sort of following on TikTok, where like millions and millions and millions of views. There have been articles written by nutritionists. It was written up in the New York Times. It just took on this whole life of its own, and I thought it really had applications in relation to what we talk a lot about here, because we get a lot of input. We share recipes and a lot of cooking and meal prep, for that's designed to be healthy, and Weight Watchers friendly on Simple Nourished Living. And we get a lot of comments and feedback from folks who say, I don't want to cook. I'm too tired to cook. How can I feed myself? How can I nourish myself with minimal effort? And this girl dinner really sort of plays into that solving that problem, because it's basically just opening your fridge, opening your pantry, coming up with various components and putting them on your plate and calling it dinner. and sort of redefining what we think of, as dinner and as a meal. It doesn't have to be as complicated, I think, as we sometimes make it out to be. So there's been a lot of talk about it because when you think about it, that terminology. I mean, I think we've all known what that means in our life without calling it girl dinner. Have you ever had the night where you just sort of open up the fridge and pull out the leftovers and assemble it on the plate? Or, you decide to have cereal for dinner, or you decide, that cheese and crackers and some grapes will be just fine because you've had a big lunch,
Right, right.
you know. And so, and there's like other cultures too, like tapas, the small plates, and that culture, cicchetti in the Italian culture, mezza in the, Mediterranean, Middle Eastern culture. So it's existed for a long time without necessarily being called, plowman's lunch, which is big in pubs, in the British Isles. So, but I thought it was really it would be interesting in another way for our readers to think about a way to feed themselves. So, if you were going to put together a snack plate for yourself, what might you put on a plate?
Um, it makes me think of those, what are they, snackables or lunchables or something that,
Right,
um,
exactly. So they're sort of like a more adult version
I don't
of
know.
Lunchables.
Well, what would I put on? Well, um, I like protein, so I would see if I had any ham or prosciutto or even chicken breast, can slice
Mm-hmm.
up into like, chicken. Um, Probably would include cheese. I love
Mm-hmm.
cheese. Um, Dried fruit, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, Nuts, I think nuts would be a dip of some kind, whether it be hummus or
Mm-hmm.
um, like a yogurt based tzatziki.
Yeah, so you can really mix and match. So if we just started to listen, I think what would be fun to list in the notes for this episode is just all the things that you might include, right, on a lunchable plate, on a girl dinner plate. So I mean, cracker, right? Any type something carby like crackers or breadsticks, bread, you know, on and on in nuts, like you said, any type of nuts, roasted nuts, salted nuts, unsalted nuts, mixed nuts, chickpeas would be fun, like
Mhm.
those crispy chickpeas would be sort of a fun,
So it's
crunchy
not
item.
necessarily It's not necessarily. What am I trying to say? It's not food that's not cooked.
No, I don't think necessarily. I think what it's really demonstrating is just something very very easy that can
Okay.
be just pulled together. So it could be warm, and it could be, it could be something you microwave in a minute, right? If like
Okay.
leftovers, I think. I mean, when I think of it, and when I think of the ways that it's showing up, it's just, I think it's demonstrating, and it's demonstrating maybe the reality of life sometimes, in that sometimes I think there's so much out there that suggests, in the world of like food magazines, cooking shows, that involve just a lot of work, a lot of effort, and sometimes we're just tired at the end of the day and we want something just really quick. So it's almost like sort of just a realistic
Mm.
approach, I think, to you know to to eating, to feeding ourselves. So I don't think it has to be necessarily cold.
Okay.
It could be you know your your leftovers, I think, from lunch that you warm up and arrange on a plate.
So I did type
Yeah.
girl dinner into Google, and of course AI. The AI, it has the results, which is basically how you described it. And then, for examples, it lists a meat and cheese snack pack, fruity jam, pickles, um, a big bowl of cereal, avocado, cucumbers, goat cheese, pepitas, chicken
Mm-hmm.
salad, egg salad, lettuce cups, sliced tomato, mozzarella, which I love, like the caprese salad. That would be
Right?
with you
And
could.
that's pretty easy, right? You just got to grape tomatoes with some of those little mozzarella balls. You don't even have to get out a knife at that point. Or if you're really feeling the, you can slice up your tomato and slice up your mozzarella for sure.
And some of those mozzarella balls come already seasoned with I don't know,
Yeah.
Italian seasoning, but a drizzle of
Mm,
olive oil or vinegar, pesto would be nice.
right.
Also, it lists, for an example, peanut butter, butter, and banana sandwiches. So I think you did a fruit wrap, like I think it was quite a while ago, like a peanut butter, banana, strawberry fruit wrap. Like you
Right.
could slice it
And
up.
and the other thing I thought of is like back in the old days, which I don't. I mean, lettuce wraps are great, but also when you take the wrap or the tortilla and put in your meat, your cheese, your veg, roll it up, and then slice it like pinwheels, and
Pinwheels.
arrange it on a little plate.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's going to be like a
Mm-hmm.
5 minute girl dinner. That can be really really satisfying. The girl dinner thing is an interesting phenomenon too, because obviously it's not just for girls, but our mindless eating deep dive into the books did suggest that comfort food for women tended to run along the less in easier, less work kinds of foods seemed more comforting to women who than to men who sometimes think of more involved, complicated,
Mm-hmm.
fully cooked meals as their types of comfort food. So the whole concept of girl dinner does follow in line with what we learned from what came up in the mindless eating book that we read too. Any, so what else could we put on a? I mean, so yeah, having chicken salad, having hard boiled eggs, deviled eggs, lunch meat in the fridge, having chopped vegetables ready to go, baby carrots, celery sticks, fresh fruit, dried fruit, grapes, berries. It makes me think of the way that Revan and Tim, my daughter in law and her husband, feed their kids a lot because James is 8 years old and he doesn't like. There's so many foods that he doesn't like, but they can always put together sort of a balanced meal because he loves fruit, and he loves cheese and he loves crackers. So often his meal will be a little bit of butter noodles with, strawberries and a little bit of chicken or something.
Mm.
So there's just all different ways to put together a plate that's going to meet your requirements for nourishing yourself. It's kind of a fun concept, I
It's a
think.
very fun concept. My one question, or a question, I guess, from a Weight Watchers weight management perspective, is it dangerous to you to sort of put food out on a sort of a charcuterie board type? Um,
Oh, I would definitely. I mean, if I were doing it myself, I would definitely want to portion it on a plate, so it would be
okay.
like just on a single plate. I definitely, if I was, I have problems if I'm at a party and there's
Mm-hmm.
like, our sister Brenda does the most gorgeous charcuterie boards, and they often are huge,
Mm-hmm.
and varied. And that sitting in front of that, like an all you can eat buffet, a smorgasbord of choices would be dangerous for me. So I think what's most often pictured, on TikTok and these places is just the single serve plate
I see.
where
Okay.
you'd put,
Okay.
where you would arrange it on your plate. You had the two or three turkey, slices of turkey roll and your little tomato mozzarella, and you would just arrange it on a plate for yourself, and that way then you've perfectly portion controlled it out for you.
Mm.
I'd make the plate, put everything away, sit down and have my meal. Of course, if you're still hungry, like we learned from mindless eating, maybe wait 5-10 minutes to see if you really are still hungry
Mm.
before diving back into the fridge or pantry. But yes, I would definitely put it on a single serve plate from a portion control standpoint.
Right. I was thinking, and I've seen this before. I don't know if it's Hungry Girl, probably Hungry Girl, but like a cold cut ham or turkey around like a mozzarella cheese stick, and you could
Mm-hmm.
slice that up to kind of pinwheel style, and have little
Yeah.
protein
So
packed.
it makes it fun. It makes it pretty. When you sit down to enjoy it. You could wrap the cold cuts around a dill pickle
Mm.
sphere, a spear too. Yeah. So lots of when you start to just think about fun fun ways to just kind of mix and match and put all these little foods together. And there's like, if you are curious, if you just again Google it, there's lots of photos, lots of images to give yourself ideas. You mentioned the dips. I mean, that could, I could imagine myself taking it in the Mexican direction with, portioning out my serving of tortilla chips, with a bean dip, with some guacamole, with some salsa, maybe with some cheese, and just sort of taking it in that direction. And again, making it just a fun, easy way to get the flavors of Mexican food without having to do a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's so many different hummuses,
I
flavored
know,
hummuses, and there's also
right?
I don't know what would like the almond based. I don't know what the brand is. There's like an almond based hummus kind of.
Uh huh.
I guess it wouldn't be hummus then, but
But lots of different nut spreads, seed
breads.
spreads, dips, And when you start to explore, like we're saying, what's available on the grocery shelves, those kinds of items just keep getting more and more expansive. So, girl dinner, there you have it. I mean, I think it's just a great way for those of us who want to minimize our time in the kitchen, to consider getting dinner on the table.
An interesting idea. Who knew?
Yeah. So, if our readers have had experience with this, if this is something they like to do, I know when I was doing some research around it, people say that's been around forever. My family called it clean out the fridge night. My family called it smorgasbord instead of clean out the fridge night. There's a lot of us who probably have been doing it and you know, not naming it that, not picking up on the latest trend, which sometimes often is just renaming something. Something old becomes new
Well, it
with a
makes
new
me
with a
think
name
of
change.
like the whole sheet pan dinner phenomenon, and you're like, well, mom's been doing sheet pan sausage and peppers, for
Right.
since the 70s or whatever. So,
We just didn't call it a sheet pan meal,
right.
right? Yeah. So a lot of these, I don't know, dishes or ways of eating just get renamed and then take on a new life. Cottage cheese is another example of a food that seems to have become just like it's become repopularized in our world of wanting to eat more protein and watch our carbs. I mean, cottage cheese was like a standard diet plate, offering back in the 70s that then I guess people sort of forgot about. That's now, oh my gosh, there's, how many different ways are we figuring out to make things without a cottage cheese now, because it's become trendy again. So it's fun to kind of watch. You're getting old when you can recognize the repeats, right? It's like, yeah, I lived through that already and now I'm seeing it come back around.
Awesome.
All right. So if you have ideas, would love for you to share in the comments regarding your thoughts around girl dinner. And we'll be back soon with another episode.
Have a great day, everyone.
Take care. Bye bye.